Hi there. Thanks for tuning into another episode of Tinnitist TV. Today, I'm talking to Micah Erenberg of The Secret Beach. You know, you don't have to be a Manitoban to appreciate The Secret Beach's new album, but it sure helps. We Were Born Here, What's Your Excuse? Is the second full length from singer-songwriter, multi-instrumentalist, and producer Erenberg and his loose musical collective. And if you've been paying attention to The Simpsons, you might know that it takes its title from a classic sight gag about Winnipeg. Fittingly, many of the album's songs are about Erenberg's memories of and relationship with this city and his home province. But they aren't the only inspirations to be found on this indie pop rock charmer. You can also hear traces of everyone from Beck to Bob Dylan and the band. The latter, thanks in no small part to Erenberg's work with Planet Waves producer Rob Fraboni. A couple of weeks before the album arrived, Erenberg zoomed in from his new home in Saskatchewan to talk about love-hate relationships, recording philosophies, what he has in common with Wu-Tang Clan's Reza, and much, much more. Enjoy. Yeah, what took you so long to make a quote unquote Winnipeg, Manitoba album?
Well, I guess to be honest, I didn't really realize that it was
Hmm.
a Winnipeg or a slash Manitoba album until it was done. And then I started to see all these themes within it. Like there was really the one song, 22. And
22? Yeah.
that one is really more like obviously based in well, and I guess the Garnet Amp song. But then
Yeah.
I started to see themes in some of the other stuff, and it was more so every song has a personal place in Manitoba for me, whereas it's more like where I was at the time. It reminds me. So maybe, uh, I guess the idea is sort of like um, with the title, it's "We Were Born Here, What's Your Excuse?" You have this sort of personality about where you're from. And this album is my own personal identification with where I'm from.
Uh-huh.
So you might, somebody listening to it might not know that it's about Winnipeg or Manitoba, but to
No.
me it very much is.
Yeah.
Um, so so I don't know what took me so long. I mean, I guess you could say that the other albums are too, but I was maybe looking more beyond, or maybe I was looking more inward versus actually having more of a regional association, a personal regional association. Like, I'll listen to one of the songs and I can, you know exactly where I was at the time of writing it
Sure.
or reading it or something like that.
The thing I think, obviously, you join the tradition of other people who have written about Winnipeg. John Sampson is the most obvious example, but there have been others. And the thing that it kind of strikes me, and I don't know, maybe this is a universal thing no matter where you're from. It seems that most of the people who write songs about Winnipeg have kind of a love-hate uh, tone to them, as opposed to being New York celebratory. I can't think of any locally based or, locally themed music that is really rah rah Winnipeg. Do you think that's something that, no matter where you live, it's kind of the typical thing, or do you think that's something that's sort of unique to us and our relationship with this city and this province?
Hmm. That's a good question. I mean, I guess there's a lot of pride in Winnipeg, maybe. And people find it funny because nobody else would seem to have like
Mm,
no, maybe you could say the same thing about Hamilton or something like that, or
right.
but for some reason we do that. I don't, yeah, I'm not sure why, but I guess because people maybe we feel like nobody else understands us or something. So you want to make it relate to everybody else that says that Winnipeg is an awful place, but really it's
Yeah,
not.
well, I mean, you literally say, yeah, Winnipeg, what an awful place to be. And
Right.
which again calls into Samson's one. I hate Winnipeg, one great city. I mean that's it. Just we seem to have this sort of what, you can't kick us, we'll kick ourselves first
Yeah.
mentality.
Right. Well, I mean, it is not like the things that are great about Winnipeg are they're hidden, you
Mm,
know. Um, they're hidden behind the wall of snow and ice and extreme heat and, isolation.
uh-huh.
All things that it seems like I think people actually really like them. Um, like even yesterday, I mean, I was in Regina, but same difference. I was thinking about how it would be so nice if it was snowing outside. And like I just had this feeling of, oh, it's turning to winter, and that's kind of nice. I kind of like that. And I think that we all kind of like that in some way. You don't.
No, I hate winter. And yet I've lived here for 60 odd years, so there you go.
Where did you live before that?
Oh, I've lived here my whole life.
Okay. Yeah.
That's, yeah.
Yeah.
Uh, so I mean, it's interesting
You're
that you
from
talk about things.
Winnipeg.
Yeah,
You were
yeah,
born
born and
in Winnipeg.
raised. Yeah, yeah,
I see.
yeah. Um, it's interesting you talk about things being hidden, given that the name that you're releasing this under is Secret Beach. That kind of ties in with the whole thing. Now, obviously, you've released albums under your own name. You've had other bands going back throughout the years. What's, I mean, and I know this is sort of a kind of a loose collective in the sense, but I mean, how is this different from, just a solo album or something else you've done in the past? How is this new?
I really wanted the ability to feature other people. Um, like the song "Where Did It Go" on the album is
Right.
written and sang by Daniel Diamond. And I wanted to be able to do that more on later albums. I'm making like a handful of songs right now that I plan on featuring other people or that I've co-written with other people. And it felt weird to have that vision, even though the first album was, I think, all songs that I wrote. Um, but yeah, hang on, I'm just getting a text message from Jesse here. He was the one who I told I'm gonna be late. So Jesse's the guy from Victory Pool. I'm just gonna text him so he doesn't go chasing after Cam.
No worries.
Um, yeah, I guess that was I wanted to, well, there was two things. There was the fact that I had started my own studio. I had always
Right.
recorded music for other people, but it was sort of not as solid as what I've got now. And it all kind of started because maybe it was 2018 or that I would have found this tape machine that I was kind of always looking for. They're really hard to find for a while. I mean, they still are sort of, but they're just more expensive. And back then they were hard to find because nobody thought anybody wanted them. So they were mostly
Right.
in storage units and stuff. So I found one in Winnipeg, and then I started to build out this studio, and I started to record this album using that tape machine. And it was doing it in my hometown, which is Matlock. I don't know if you're familiar with Matlock, but
Yep.
probably if you've been in Manitoba for 60 years.
I know Matlock.
And I guess the vision of having other people involved and doing all the production on my own and not um I with my first two albums that I recorded, self-titled albums,
Right.
they were recorded at other people's studios, and they were recorded with producers and with a lot of different, a lot of input that was maybe not the type of input that I was hoping to more so be the organizer of it all.
Mm.
And then decide what kind of input was coming in, like for example with this album, oh, I want Daniel to have a song on it. So I asked him to do that, and then we made it together. Just the two of us, which was really nice to sort of have a lot more control over the process.
Mm-hmm.
So I wanted to, in my vision, I thought I want to go further that way. I want to be able to record a handful of songs that maybe I don't sing on or play on at all, or haven't written or something, and not feel like they don't have a place. So it's more of opening the door to that. The Secret
So,
Beach is opening the door to that, because I want
right.
to do more of that in the future, and I want to be able to do it for a long time.
What is it about you about that appeals to you right now?
Um,
Why is that sort of the preferable path than the usual one, which would be writing a bunch of songs and recording them and having all the sort of, control of everything and having all the having your ego you know, assuaged in
well,
every way possible.
I guess I just sort of have maybe there was some artists that I watched continue to do the same thing,
Hmm.
and maybe that will be the case with the Secret Beach anyways, but I
Right.
hope that I can like I want creative freedom,
Mm.
I want to be able to diversify what whatever I want to be able to put out whatever I want to put out. Originally I thought, oh, maybe this could be more of a hub, sort of like a record label, and there could actually be different artists
Right.
involved. Not that that's thrown out the door, but I haven't really stepped into that idea yet.
I mean, it kind of reminds me of, and this is going to be completely left field, the same approach as Reza and the Wu-Tang Clan in the sense of he's the guy who's, producing all this stuff, but it's all these other, there's the 9 rappers coming in and they all have their own solo albums, but he's kind of the, yeah, the guy at the top of the pyramid there, overseeing it all.
It's funny that you say that, because I actually read this book called The Tao of Wu.
Hmm.
Uh, do you know that book?
I know of it. I haven't read it.
It's a really good book, and I read it right around that time that I was starting the Secret Beach, and I wasn't really a Wu-Tang fan before that. But the whole idea and everything that he was talking about really, like, spiritually and creatively, really resonated with me. Um,
There you go.
yeah, so it is very much like that. That's
You,
not that it's existing like that right now, but I kind
no.
of, oh, it's almost like a philosophical thing of what is it that you want to do with creativity, because I don't necessarily want to be able to um have to tie it to myself all the time. I mean, there's always going to be some tie to myself, but I would like to be able to stretch that line as far as possible.
Right. Have you ever what is it? Eno's got those cards, Brian Eno came up with those. I can't
Right.
remember what they're called. Oblique strategies, I believe they're called,
Yeah.
which is,
Right.
you draw a card, make something more yellow or do this the opposite way that you would normally. Have you ever tried any of those sorts of arbitrary kind of, you know?
I haven't tried those specifically. Um, I'm
Or
trying to.
is that something that's feasible? I mean, when you're in the
I,
studio, if you're recording and you're kind of maybe not at a brick wall, but at a point where, well, okay, we put this down. Now what do we do? What's your sort of philosophy then when you go forward? Do you kind of go, well, let's throw in this or let's throw in that, or do you leave things alone and come back to them, wait for inspiration, or
That's more so what I do is usually I'll go to something else.
yeah, okay.
Yeah, usually I'll go on to something else and then you'll be focusing on whatever it is, making your
Right.
sound, and then the thing will come to you.
Right, when you're not thinking about it. So do you write a massive amount of songs? Are you like incredibly fast and prolific?
Not necessarily. Sometimes I'll write more times, sometimes I'll write more than other times. Like if I have like I'll set aside a week or two to
Right.
be
So
write
it's a
more.
spigot. You can turn it on and turn it off.
Yeah, I mean these days I should be writing more. I've been doing a lot of studio work for other people, doing a lot of mixing and mastering and stuff, and it does, you know, take up time. It's hard to make the
Right.
time to yeah, it can be pretty, challenging to write. But for this last album, like for We Were Born Here, it was like I wrote a bunch of songs. I took a month and I wrote a bunch of songs. Um, and then I sort of picked my favorites, and then I looked back on old songs I had written and picked a couple of those. Um, and then I think at that point had about 15 songs, and then
Right.
scrapped about 6 of them or 7 of them and wrote a bunch more songs. Sort of I didn't really, it was sort of, I had all these recordings, but I didn't really have them to be conceptualized. It was going to be 2 different albums. And then like 2 like EPs or something. And then when I started working with Rob Fraboni, who helped me mix the album
Right.
and master the album, he was like, why don't you just, you know, write a few more songs, or do you have any more songs? Like just come and mix and we'll do as many as we can in 4 or 5 days. So that kind of inspired me to make some more songs. So there's like there's like 3 different types of, then I
Right.
wrote a bunch of songs at that time, but they were more like I just wrote and recorded at the same time, put it on the album. So
Right.
there's different approaches. One was, old songs, one was write songs in a month, and one was write songs like um more inspired, not just write and record
Right.
at the same time, which I actually really like, is recording the song as you write it.
Right, and that seems to be kind of reflective of an evolution, or the where you're at right now. It seems like immediacy is kind of what you're going for, and that ties in with you mentioning Rob Fraboni, who, if people don't know, obviously worked with Dylan and the band on Planet Waves, and there's a lot of in your press kit there's sort of a mention of how that inspired you in a way, but I think people will maybe be misled by that in the sense of, yeah, there are some songs on the album that are sort of Dylan-esque for sure, but it wasn't so much, as I understand it, the songwriting or the sounds of that album as much as it was the recording approach that was taken on it. Have I got that right?
Absolutely. Yeah,
Okay.
absolutely.
Can you elaborate a little bit on that? I mean, I think for anybody who's a Dylan fan, they kind of know that there's a lot of, seat of your pants stuff going on. Al Cooper can sneak into the room and sit on the organ and
Right.
you know play on Rolling Stone and all that. So but it seems that was something that is sort of newer to you, and taking that approach in the studio of recording it as you're writing it.
Yeah, I mean, I really appreciated um that approach to creativity, the more live and the more um the I guess the less toiled over, or like, yeah, it's even if you practice your song, 1,000 times, when you record it, you want to be able to be in a place where it's, maybe you sit down in that spot and you do it the first 1 or 2 times, because it doesn't matter how many times you play a song, there's going to be a sitting in where you play it, and it's going to have some form of fresh energy or something like that. And the same thing goes when you're playing with other people. um like, you can imagine if you're sitting around a campfire and somebody plays a song and everybody enjoys it, and then they play it again, maybe because everybody enjoyed it so much they want to hear it again. But after that, maybe it starts to not, you can't play it that many more times.
Sure.
You know what I'm saying? Like it
Yeah,
starts
well,
to,
yeah, you obviously the first take energy is always the best, and sometimes the demo energy is you can end up chasing the demo down a rabbit hole, right?
yeah. And so I mean, I guess I'm trying to explain that in some way as, why that is. Because people say that a lot, but,
Hmm.
to understand it is really a big thing because it doesn't, like, for example, Planet Waves. That's a really great example because, um, I think that Bob was writing the songs for the most part the day before or the night
Hmm.
before. He would write 3 songs, come to the studio, they would record 3 songs. He would go home and record and write 3 more songs. Um, except for Forever Young, which is 2 versions of the song, and he had written it a long time before that. It was a really old song, and he just couldn't figure out how to record it, or never knew how to record it. But they still managed to find their immediate energy by putting that song in the room with a bunch of people that hadn't heard it, and probably recording it, you know, 1 or 2 or 3 times.
Right. I mean,
Each way.
are you doing it? Are you doing them in like generally first, second, third takes kind of thing? And
Yeah, trying
yeah.
to, but often when you're writing the song, you have to figure it out. So, where does the first take fall? Like it's the first time that you press record. So if you press record on your voice memo, is that take one? Because often you'll hear the voice memo, you'll do your recording and then you'll listen to the voice memo and you go, oh, I did something different there and it's actually really good.
Sure.
Uh, so you have to be sort of diligent with your approach to, are you doing your voice memo and then studying it really closely to make sure that you are getting all the things about it that you liked, and then doing your first take,
Right.
because chances are you don't want your song to sound like your phone.
Right.
Um, so you might want to do your voice memo into the microphone setup that you have. It's hard to know, it's hard to know how it's supposed to sound, because when you have a recording studio and when you're producing a song, things could um, sound all sorts of different ways. You
Right.
might want to use one microphone on 3 instruments, or you might want to use 6. So you have to be more diligent about when your first take actually is, or you can be very um, open about it and just say, I'm just going to go with gut and choose this microphone and this amplifier and go for it, which is more so what I do. Obviously, with experience, it comes like you can predict what it's going to be like.
Well, a lot of this to me seems to speak to experience and the willingness and the belief to trust that you will find a path and the song will find a path to exist. It's like when I listen to some of those, I don't know if you've heard some of those Dylan bootleg boxes where they'll have like, 30 takes
Right.
of a song, right? And the thing that strikes me sometimes when I listen to those is it's not like they're just going and repeating themselves, where it's like take 7 is the same as take 6, except somebody, dropped a note in bar 12 or whatever. It's like on a lot of those things, he's changing the song in fairly noticeable, drastic ways every time. So, I mean, on the one hand, then to talk about the philosophical approach that you're sort of bringing up here, every take becomes a first take in that sense.
Right.
And B, I kind of when I listen to that, it makes me feel like he is simultaneously both in control of what's happening, but at the same time kind of letting go of control and trying to let the song
Yeah.
determine its own path,
Right. Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. And you have to let go of your idea of, oh, the song's going to be in the key of G and it's going to be this fast and etc. If you're going to do it that way. And then there's also, you know, some, I forget who, oh yeah, it was Waylon Jennings, who was famous for bringing a gun into the studio, and people thought that it was a rumor, you know, that
Uh-huh.
he had said that if somebody played a pickup note, if anybody in the session played a pickup note, he was going to shoot them because he was tired of basically studio musicians cheating their way through. Like he wanted there to he didn't want it to sound like there was a studio band. He wanted it to sound like it was a band of people that were really interested in the music and were really thinking hard about it rather than somebody giving somebody else a cue or whatever so that everybody
Right.
could get through the take. And he didn't want it he wanted it to sound unique and not like somebody else's album.
Right.
So
I mean, part of that is kind of like having to unlearn almost in a sense, right? I mean, you spend years learning how to write songs, you spend years learning how to play the instruments, you spend years learning how to engineer and produce. And then at a certain point, like we say, you have to sort of let go of all that and just kind of let the stuff come through you and trust that you've got the tools in your toolbox that will naturally rise to the occasion, right?
right. Yeah. Well, and that's sort of, you know, when people say you know, whatever it is, like uh practice, you know, 1,000 times and then perform.
Right.
In the recording studio, a lot of that is practice your studio. You know, know what it's gonna sound like when you put that mic over there and plug it
Right.
into this thing, because that way when you are writing a song and you do say, okay, it's time to do the drums or whatever you're going to do first, or do the vocals or the guitar or whatever, you can have, you know, be diligent about your vision of what the song is going to sound like. Do you
Right.
want the guitar to sound like, and also, you know, what instruments are you using? Do you want to use them electric
Right.
guitar?
And you're sort of freed from those technical. I was just talking to David Barbie, the producer, like last week, and he was saying that, the thing that he gets out of all the years of being in his own studio and intimately and intricately knowing all of the gear and what it all does and the various permutations is that he can kind of forget about it and worry about the artistic aspect and the creative aspect of it because he knows he can just whip over there and put that mic here and here's what it's going to get and here's how it's going to sound so he can be more concerned with the performance and the creativity as opposed to all the technical bullshit.
Right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. So is there an example of one of the songs on this album where, like we were talking about, it maybe started off as you thought it was going to be one thing, and then what we're hearing is something decidedly and drastically different?
Hmm. Um, I don't know. I think that there's always a level of not knowing exactly what it's going to sound like, of
Mm,
course,
okay.
especially playing with other people.
So you
Uh,
don't hear them as like fully finished little, like when you wrote 22 or whatever, it didn't sort of in your head, it wasn't this fully formed front to back thing that sounded like this and that and the other thing. It was just sort of you had the nugget, the piece, the bit of it, and then evolved out of that.
yeah, I guess for most of um well, for 22, that would be a maybe a good example of that. Was
Okay.
so writing it, knowing how it feels, and um knowing that it should be a live take with a band. So I wanted to make sure that I had a band in a room all together and we were gonna play from beginning to end. Um, the only real variable I thought was maybe I'll sing it again if I
Mm.
don't like how I sang it, you know. I think there's just two songs on the album that are it's 22 and Have You Seen the News, and those are fully live takes. There's no
Okay.
overdubs or anything. It was just as it was performed, that's as you hear it. And I knew what my studio sounded like. I knew what my microphone sounded like for the most part. And I also didn't have too many more options. Like I didn't, we only had so many channels to record into and so many microphones to use. So you kind of make your decisions based on that. And then at that point you kind of know, okay, maybe this is how this is going to sound. And no, that would be about the limit that I would know that how it was going to sound. And I would say it's pretty close to that as
So
how,
you're recording to tape, right?
yeah, yeah.
A 16 track or?
For that, it was 16 track. For some of it, for some of the album, it's 8 tracks. So,
Oh, okay.
um, but let's say another example might be like a song like LA Haircut or Buying You a Garnet Amp on Kijiji. Those are
Right.
songs that I recorded myself. And for those ones, I would have more of a vision of exactly how it was going to sound like at the end right away. Because you come up with the song and it's just me in here. And it's like, okay, um, if I'm gonna start, if I'm gonna put down a vocal or a guitar or a drum track, I want to know what it is
Right.
that I'm playing, that it's gonna sound like I'm playing to. So like, am I gonna make the drums really loud and you know trashy sounding, or am I gonna mic every drum and make it sound really close and intimate? And for both those songs, I wouldn't want that. I wouldn't want the latter. But I wouldn't know that I wanted the latter unless I tried to think of how the song was supposed to sound at the end.
Right. Yeah. You need a
So
little more vision on those, right? If you're building them up.
exactly, if you're
Otherwise
doing it
you're,
yourself,
yeah.
if it's one instrument at a time, yeah, exactly. And with that being said, when you're doing it yourself, it can be a little bit more difficult to get things in one or two takes because you have to go through that learning process of every instrument.
Right.
And for me, I'll still try to keep it within reason, or I'll do one or two takes or maybe 3 takes and then take a break and do something else so that it's not, I don't want to, I don't want to overdo it overkill, or I'll
Right.
practice a bunch and then I'll, do it again later that night or the next day or something, because it can be, there is always something special about a first or second or third take.
Do you have a lot of songs that are in various stages of completion like that? Yeah.
Yeah.
So there's and do some of them like sit around for weeks or months or even years waiting for you to come back to them?
Sadly, yeah. I mean, I wish that I just finished them in the moment, but sometimes it's hard to because, like, you got to play a show or go on tour or mow the lawn or whatever,
Oh, so it's more of a time management thing as opposed to a creative
Yeah.
thing? Oh,
It,
okay. So wow, you've just got a whole bunch of orphan children sitting out there waiting for you to come and finish
I
them
guess
off.
so. I guess, will they end up to be good? I don't know. Maybe not. Um, it's fun for me. It's really fun to start something
Sure, right.
and just do whatever feels right. So maybe I could be a little bit more maybe if I was more diligent about the quality output, um, then I wouldn't just be ready to be playing with the tools or doing the next track next or whatever. But for me,
Right.
it's
But the new idea is always the best idea, right? Your next song is always your favorite song.
yeah, I mean it's true. And then a couple weeks later it's crap. So it's like you kind of have to do it in the moment. There's a couple songs I'm working on now that I think are good. I really like them, but it'll be hard to get back into them. I might have to start them again, you know.
Sure, sure. I get
Yeah.
it. So when you work with a Rob Fraboni or a Rob whose last name I will undoubtedly pronounce wrong, is it Schnapp?
Schnaff. Yeah.
Schnapp. Okay. So I
Yeah.
mean, what are those experiences like? I mean, is it a thing where you're kind of really watching what they're doing and trying to learn things from them, or do you kind of have to put that aside and really kind of be more on a try and be more on a creative, interactive level with them?
Well, with Schnaff, I was never in the room with him.
Oh, that was all remote? Yeah.
It was all remote.
Okay.
It was all during COVID, and he's in California, and
Yeah.
obviously I was here, and but it was still very, he would send a mix back, and it would be like, holy smokes, how did you make it sound like that?
Uh-huh.
And then go down, the rabbit hole of like weeks of, and he was really nice about kind of sharing
Nice.
information about what he
Have
was
you
doing.
picked up things from these guys that you then can turn around and use when you're recording your own
Big
stuff or
time,
somebody else's? Yeah.
big time. I mean, I like with Rob Schnaff, he really is, a genius, but he's so down to earth, and he's so matter of fact. Like, well, you just do this and this, and then it sounds good. And the recording, like, he's really, you know, he was the one that told me, like, release the demos. Like, that's his
Right.
whole ethos, is like, people will come to him with a handful of demos, and he'll listen to them often and say, like, some of these are just the way that they're supposed to be. They just need to be mixed.
Yeah.
So he's pretty cool that way, and he's always been really, really nice about he was like, this is the gear that we use. And when we tried to match some of his mixes for that first album, like, he mixed 4 of the songs, we tried to mix the other 6 or whatever, however many songs there were, so they fit in with those ones. So we kind of had to ask him a little bit of, like, how did you do it? And he was pretty happy to share information, and we were able to get things pretty close. Not maybe right on, but
Close
pretty
enough, right?
close.
It's rock and roll. Yeah.
Yeah. And well, with Fraboni, it was different because I actually went, like, we spoke on
Right.
the phone for several, well, probably 2 or 3 months, just about sort of planning out this mixing process. And he really wanted to mix it all analog, and I really wanted to watch him mix it all analog. And his
I bet.
whole vision was, why don't you come here to New York, and we'll rent a studio, and we'll do it all really fast. Sort of like, the way that he would have done things back in the day, is just sort of pull up a song, decide, where every instrument is, the signal path of every instrument, where it's going to go within, 20 minutes, and, put your faders up within 5 or 10 minutes, and mix a song within, 1 to 3 hours. And then,
And are you doing, and is he doing like full passes through, or is it a case of where maybe he's mixing part of the song and then, cutting tape with other parts of the song that he's mixed it on other, you know what I mean?
full passes.
Okay.
At this point, that they would have all been digital,
Oh,
because
okay.
it would have been too complicated, because I recorded the songs on 3 different tape machines. And I would have needed to bring all 3 tape machines, or find those tape machines in New York and calibrate them to how my machines
So you
were.
put it in the box and then transferred it to tape.
Put it in the box, and then recorded it analog at the studio, and then printed it back to digital at the
I
end.
got you.
In the end, I didn't end up using his mixes. I ended up mixing it myself at home. Because there was one song that we did that I didn't really like the mix of. And I decided, I'm going to go for it, and I'm going to try to beat that one mix. And I did the exact same setup that we had there with my own tools, and did it in about the same amount of time. And then was like, well, if I can do one, maybe I could do another one. And I ended up doing the whole album over again. And I was like, kind of like really worried about telling him. And then when I did tell him, he was like, that's fine. That happens all the time. Like, he's like, it's not a big deal. Like, that's kind
Yeah,
of how.
and you still paid him, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, right.
Yeah,
But still, you got to.
but I did I pay him enough? Because I paid him to mix the album, but what I really got out of it was, before, could I sit down and say confidently say we'll have this song mixed in the next 4 hours?
Uh-huh.
Probably not.
So you
Now,
got that from him?
100%.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, 100%. And before, mixing was this thing where I thought you had to spend weeks and weeks
Right.
going back and changing this one thing, or maybe days, oh well, now this is not right and that's not right. And it can be that way, but
But this seems like a more freeing way to approach it, that
it
everything
is. And
doesn't have to be, meticulously perfect every time, and that the imperfections are part of the personality and the reality and what you've captured, right?
they are, and it's with mixing too. There's a performance involved, and
Yeah.
when you spend months mixing something, you still won't be happy with it.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, you'll never be. I to be honest, I'm pretty happy with all the mixes on that album.
It all
But
sounds great then, yeah, and going into some crazy rabbit hole on it. It's the same as talking about recording. If you tried to sit in that studio and do 1,000 takes of something, obviously it's just going to sound like garbage. It's not worth the time. So I mean, I want to give you compliments on that Sam Singer album you did,
oh
because
yeah,
that's a fantastic piece of work in all respects.
nice.
Um, so when you're in that situation with somebody, what do you think your role is when you're sitting behind the desk like that, working with a client or another artist? Or do you tailor it to them or what? What's your job aside from obviously capturing the sounds?
Well, I'm glad that you brought that up and that you like that album because I think it's really great too. Um,
Fantastic, yeah.
and it's cool that you've heard it because that was actually we recorded that just a couple months after, well, it would have been June and then July. Yeah, just a month and a half or a month after I was with Rob, uh, mixing my album.
Okay.
And and I'm assuming you're talking about the most recent Sam Singer album.
Yeah, Where the Rivers Do, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So I had recorded the one before that,
right.
and Sam wanted to come in and track everything, drums and bass, and then guitars, and then vocals, and then this. And he wanted to do it in a short amount of time. And he ended up having to come back several times, and he ended up having to um, do some recording elsewhere, and it dragged out a lot longer. And I think that nobody was happy with. I mean, I think it's really great. I think we're both happy with the result, but I think that how it turned out in the end was not what anybody envisioned.
Hmm.
It was good, but it was too convoluted. There was too much that was thrown at the wall in all those different sessions and in all the time in between that
Right.
it was never possible to know how it was going to sound. So I told Sam, if we're going to record another album, I want to do it in 3 days and I want it to be done at the end of the 3 days. And at that point, my work is done. And if you want to add, like he said, I do want to add some strings and stuff. And I was like, that's totally fine.
Yeah, that's just icing
I,
on a cake, yeah.
yeah.
Yeah,
But I didn't want to be there for that.
yeah.
I just said, you can go somewhere else because, um, A, I was pretty busy last summer, and B, I just thought it's gonna start. We might get to the point where somebody says, "Oh, we should redo the guitar," and you know how the guitar was recorded, so can't we redo it? And then all of a sudden, the album's gone. And
Yeah.
and so I thought if we got everybody into the room together and there was no isolation between them, and we were fairly dynamic with our microphone choices to the
Mm.
point where Sam could redo his vocals if he
Right.
sang quietly and if he was far enough away and if he was, and it worked. Like there's a couple songs where he did redo his vocal. But he was really scared of doing that, of doing his vocals live.
Sure.
But he ended up using quite a few of them because it turns out, when you do it that way, you actually end up getting really great results. And when you do it that way and you record everybody at the same time and then you play it back and you've been diligent with how you are recording, it sounds pretty much like the album right away.
Right.
It sounds pretty close. And it's really good to do things that way because then people's vision starts to become clear right away for that song and for the rest of the songs. And they start to say things like, oh, the snare drum is too boomy, or the bass guitar is too this or whatever, or there's too much room sound, or oh, the electric guitar is too distorted or something. And then you start to get these immediate visions coming together,
Right.
so that at the end of 3 days you actually have an album. I mean, I think we did it in less. I think we did it in 2 days, maybe, the whole thing. And then he re-recorded, he did the overdubs, and it was the same with the mixing. I said, I'm going to mix it really fast. He didn't have very much money, so I just said, this is just going to be, I'm going to do it in 2 days. We'll do the whole thing. And he sent me the overdubs that he had done, and I put them into the songs, and 5 songs in one day and 5 songs the next day, sent it to him, and he said, it sounds great. And that was just it, because we had such a clear vision, and because I knew what he was going for in the recording, it was so easy to mix it. So yeah, it was a direct translation of my not newfound approach, but my newfound ability to have that approach to things. And I think he
Well,
really
yeah, and that's part of the thing is having that, like you say, the ability to have that approach, seeing that it can be done that way and being willing to do it, and trusting that, you've been doing this long enough that it's all going to work out, right?
Yeah, and I'd like to say that Sam plays with some really talented musicians.
Hmm.
They definitely contribute to that.
I've lived here my whole life, and seen all the different, all the different bands and all the different scenes, and a lot involving you over the decades. But I really can't think of too many other times when there has been so much good music and so many talented players, and just so many people coming up and coming out of Winnipeg and Manitoba as there have been lately. It's really wonderful to see. I have no idea what is behind it.
Yeah, I think it's I I've noticed that as well. And I also hope that there are younger people doing it. I'm not sure. I'm not as involved in the younger music scene, people in
Yeah.
their early 20s or teens or whatever. Because it kind of seemed that way when I was that age, that there was a lot of people making music, and and even, like, say, looking at music schools like Brandon University or University of Manitoba, a lot of the people that are playing now were doing that. And I'm not I mean, I don't know, maybe I'm just not involved, but I hope that that's the case. I hope that it's not a flash in the pan, so to speak, of the Manitoba music scene. But I think, why is it that it's kind of a snowball effect, uh
Yeah.
no pun intended, I guess. But like, yeah, it's sort of a snowball effect of, oh, this person's doing that, and you can bounce ideas off of each other, and you can support each other. And also, probably, probably a large part because we get such good support from Manitoba Film and Music and Manitoba
Right.
Music and that type of thing. Like, you do see I was just talking to Casey, my partner, about that yesterday, about how, like, it's, I think, the only province where if you're going on tour, they will almost definitely fund you. If have you been active, and if you're consistently being active, and if you are really serious and really professional about your game and whatever, then, like, other places have a cap, oh, you've gotten like, yeah,
Right.
with Casey and her band, they've already gotten tour funding for this year enough, so they probably can't get funding for their next tour.
Right.
It's a huge privilege. And people often in the States say, oh, I didn't, Canada, they get such good funding, and Canada does get good funding, factor and
Sure.
Canada
Factor.
Council
Yeah.
and that kind of stuff. But Manitoba is a little extra for sure.
Yeah, and as you said, I think it's the rising tide raises all the boats. There is that sort of,
Exactly.
yeah.
Exactly. Well, and then you think like I think about, oh, what does it mean? I see some other artists that are maybe more successful than me, or on paper more successful. Maybe they sell more records, they
Right.
tour, they play to bigger crowds, or they um yeah, whatever, whatever it might be. But oh, they should be getting the funding so that they could really grow. But it's actually sort of more about, if I know that, um, the people that are trying to make it work are all getting they're given the ability to make it work, it creates an arts community.
Right.
And the people that contribute to the arts community aren't necessarily the most successful ones on paper. It's the people that are,
Right.
um, you know, this the real gauge of success is how much you do it and how much you care about it.
Yeah,
And
I mean, I've always believed that anybody who can pay their bills, be an artist essentially as their job. That is success in a lot of ways, as opposed to fitting it in on the weekends. I mean, I do those factor things when people, when bands and musicians apply, I go and listen to their stuff, and it's always weird to how do you pick who should get the money and how much they should get, and it's interesting because some of these people come and they've got like, big name managers and big name, and they've got a label behind them and this and that, and they're applying for money. And I go, well, you've already got all these people on your side. If they believe in you, I think they should be, kind of paying your way. Whereas, you've got people who are applying who don't have all this infrastructure already behind them, where you go, well, you should get some money to, get a
right,
leg up.
yeah,
And then you have the people who are just, you listen to some of the things and you go, oh, this is awful, and you're deluded, and they submit some plan where it's like, and I need $50,000 to hire musicians to go on a national tour, and you have to go, I mean, that's not realistic, So it's
right.
always a weird juggling
It
thing,
is weird.
judging
Yeah,
art. So
yeah.
talking about going out on the road, you're obviously going back out with these songs. Is it just going to be you and the guitar, or are you taking some other people with you, or what's the scenario?
I think it'll be a bit of both for the most part. Hopefully, it'll be with Casey and I will play together. And I think there's a few. It's through September, and Casey has some gigs at the beginning and the end of September. So for those parts, I will probably be alone, or maybe I have a friend, Sam, who I play with, who lives in California, and so maybe Sam will join us, or replace Casey or something for those, or maybe we'll do one or two together, and then some of the other ones just Sam and I. So for the most part, it'll be a duo thing,
Hmm.
and maybe a handful of solo or a trio
Do you
performances.
still enjoy performing much? I mean, it seems like, you're kind of moving in this other direction of really enjoying being in the studio and being creative in that setting, and all the, stuff you can do there. Is getting in the van and driving for 6 hours to stand up on a stage and play for 45 minutes still something that appeals to you?
I really love it. I mean, we just
Mhm.
did it for a week, and I at the end of the week, I was kind of like, this is sort of the point in which I start to get into this and kind of like to do it.
Uh,
It'd be nice if we could do it for another 3 weeks or something. Or I mean,
yeah.
yeah, 3 weeks is a good amount of time. Doing it longer is good too, but as long as you take care of yourself, it's really great.
Right.
Yeah, like just getting good food and nice places to sleep and that kind of thing. And it's not, I mean, do you make money? Like, it's always hard to say. I've done some tours where, if you have a new album and you got something to sell, then yeah, you might make some more money. But if you're, uh, you know, uh, it's maybe second or third tour, same market, same album, you can make a little bit less money, and maybe it's not as good. But yeah, I love it. I mean, I think it's just really fun, and it's cool because I don't think it's as popular as it used to be. Like, I don't think that young people are going to shows maybe as much as I mean, I'd like to say that it's on the smaller level, but I've heard so much about big bands
Right.
reducing their venue sizes and that kind of thing too. But it's just people, in some ways, because of that, you get the people that do come out, and they're so thankful that there's live music happening and that people are still touring, and they do say things like, oh yeah, you don't have, people don't tour and come to these smaller venues as much and whatever. So, and it's quality live music. Like, it's undeniable. Like, when somebody says, like, oh, I haven't seen a good show in a long time or something, or maybe you go to a town where they don't have live music very often, and they're like so happy to
Right.
just to be at a concert. That's really what it's all about. It's what it all comes down to. Even recording is just, you're just trying to represent a performance. We had performances long before we had recordings, and that's what people love, at its essence. So I really think it's great to be able to bring that to people, and hopefully give a sense of whatever it is, magic or performance or fun or whatever people take from it.
All right. Well, listen, man, I have taken up enough of your time today. I want to thank you for it. And thank you for this album. It's another great piece of work. And best of luck out there on the road, and we'll see you somewhere.
Well, thanks for the chat. It's really, really great talking to you, and yeah, thanks a lot for giving it a listen, and wanting to know a little bit more. That's really
Oh yeah.
great.
No, it was
Yeah.
fun. I look forward to your emerging status as the Reza of Matlock.
That's great. I
All
love
right, man.
that.
Go with it. Run with it.
Okay, awesome.
All right,
Yeah.
brother. Have a
Okay.
good day.
Yeah,
Bye.
you too. See you.